You know how we say the tens of trillions of microorganisms which live in and on us have their tentacles of wisdom in just about every single biological process that we have? Well, seems like they may have their tentacles on our aging too. And since you can modulate them, it may mean you can, well, we'll talk about it. Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic way. Today, we are returning from our microbiome hiatus and attempting to bridge the gap between its function and the age-old question: why do we get old? Pun intended, of course. And unfortunately, I do not have any groundbreaking insights into a newly discovered fountain of youth. Sorry. But we may have a few trillion new little hints. Smelly hints. So, to explore, we are going to review some new human data which just hit the scientific streets, highlighting the potential influence that our microbes have on our biological age, or what can be referred to as our true age at the cellular and metabolic level, and not some made-up yet commonly accepted chronological system which happens to be pretty damn useless in determining one's true health. Now, that being said, biological age is still a very new field, a science and an art where a handful of biomarkers are drawn and analyzed to determine one's cellular age, their age on the inside, based off the function and efficiency of their biological machinery. And if you've been around these parts, you know that we've covered biological age quite a bit. So if you're interested in a more elaborate deep dive, I will link previous videos in the show notes below. As for the context of this conversation, it's important to understand that these biological parameters are fed into something called an age clock, which is essentially a machine learning algorithm built and trained on an ever-growing pool of data, one that ultimately spits out a best guess of an individual's real age on the inside. Another important piece of relevant information for today revolves around the vast and systemic effect our ever-changing ecosystem of microbes have on just about every aspect of our health. They are constantly secreting compounds and modulating pathways which influence the strength and resiliency of the gut wall, modulate hormone production, immune activity, cellular respiration, muscle protein synthesis, cognitive function, and just about everything else you can think of. Thus, the tentacles of wisdom analogy. The problem is, what we've learned in our brief exploration into this internal ecosystem is the fact that these microbes are a direct byproduct of their environment, and not all of them are good tenants. In fact, they all have their own self-interests in mind. It just so happens that a few species have self-interests which help their hosts, us humans, vibe more efficiently. And it all starts the moment we exit the womb, because this is when we are instantly colonized by trillions of microbes. And from that point on, throughout our childhood and into adulthood, the species and prevalence of these microbes are cultivated by the food we eat, the movement we do, the sleep we get, the medications we take, the products we use, and the nature we experience, bringing us to the cold hard truth that in this world where chronic disease is becoming more common and accepted throughout the population, the average intelligent walking ape isn't checking many of these boxes in a good way. And as a result of that, a scarcely diverse, health deteriorating ecosystem of microbes begin to prosper, feeding off poor lifestyle habits like cube monkeys when someone leaves leftover dessert in the office kitchen. I mean, those things are gone like, how do I know? No, we won't go there. All that being said, or vividly depicted with analogies, you're welcome, we still have very little insights in how these communities of microbes affect our true age, our biological age. But this recent study certainly begins to shed new light. Researchers out of the University of Szeged in Hungary sought to see if there was a relationship between the gut microbiome, epigenetic age acceleration, and physical fitness across male and female adults. To do this, they recruited 80 physically fit individuals between the age of 34 and 84 and analyzed their gut microbiome and epigenetic age with metagenomic sequencing of stool samples and the Horvath DNA methylation-based epigenetic clock. They also measured maximum oxygen uptake, hand grip force, vertical jump, and BMI to assess cardiovascular fitness, muscle and leg strength, and overall physical fitness. Sounds fun, right? So, what'd they find? Well, first, researchers found that an increased entropy of the gut microbiome was associated with accelerated epigenetic age. Wow, but what does that actually mean? Great question. Entropy is a measure of disorder, and a higher entropy in the gut microbiome indicates a less diverse and less balanced microbiome, creating a condition known as gut dysbiosis. Okay, so now that we know, we can conclude that it isn't great. But what else we got? Researchers also found that it wasn't just diversity that mattered, but genre of species too, as certain bacteria were positively and negatively associated with epigenetic aging. For example, Bifidobacterium adolescentes and Escherichia coli in males, and Bacteroides uniformis and Vulgaris in females, finding that species which were associated with inflammation had a positive correlation with accelerated aging. Huh. You don't say. Interestingly, they also observed that bacterial signatures related to epigenetic aging did not align with chronological age, indicating a unique relationship between specific microbiome states and age acceleration. Finally, there was a clear association between fitness and beneficial communities in both men and women, suggesting that fitness status not only has an association with a healthier microbiome, but an improved biological age as well. All in all, this study suggests that alterations in the gut microbiome are associated with epigenetic age acceleration and physical fitness. That being said, this data is still very preliminary, coming with a handful of limitations and pending peer reviews. So there is still much work to be done before any firm conclusions can be made. What it does do, though, is lay the groundwork for future studies to build on. And what we currently know is that most data to date suggests that a happier gut leads to a happier human, even if there's no confirmation that it can make us biologically younger. So let's talk about some ways that we can hedge our bets and cultivate our garden within. As we've discussed in previous microbial explorations, there seems to be a growing association between the health and diversity of these communities and our odds, likelihood, and probability of vitality over time, aka that longevity thing we love to talk about so much. And with that comes awesome and slightly alarming news. The awesome being that our microbiome is heavily influenced by our lifestyle and environment. And the slightly alarming being that our microbiome is heavily influenced by our lifestyle and environment. Yeah, irony at its finest. Why, you ask? Because both of these factors need a lot of nurturing. Nurturing that can be done, but typically is not being done by the average intelligent walking ape on this beautiful floating rock, with the ever-rising prevalence of modern disease and declining health span being a prime example of that. However, all of this also brings forth an equally important point: the fact that you, yes, you, happen to be in more control than you think. Because you do, in fact, control the decision making when it comes to those important factors, right? Nod yes. Good. And if you didn't know that until right here, right now, welcome to the world of owning your health and owning your outcome. So here are some microbe modulating factors to noodle on when it comes to optimizing your garden within. all, might I add, are discussed in much further detail in the videos linked in the show notes below. First, eat real food, packed with dietary fiber, high-quality protein, healthy fats, and micronutrients. This may be the most powerful tool that you have in cultivating your microbes within, simply because they eat what you eat. And the nefarious inflammation-inducing communities love the ultra-processed Western diet. Supplementing with a high-quality probiotic can be helpful as well, but do your research because not all probiotics are created equal, as we discussed in this video here. I personally like the Symbiotic from Seed if you're looking for a good place to start. Next, we have the bedrock of all things health and longevity, high-quality circadian aligned sleep. Because a little known fact is, our microbes follow circadian rhythms too. They need rest, a break from the digestive demand. So incorporating circadian aligned sleep with a strategic 12+ hour overnight fast can work wonders. Oh, and we cannot forget the microbe manipulating power of badonkadonking. As we were reminded here today, exercise is good for microbial business, at least for the beneficial communities that we care about. Previous research has shown that consistent exercise is not only associated with more microbe diversity, but also an abundance in more beneficial species of gut bugs. And as we discussed here, they are a likely necessity for optimizing the adaptive response to exercise by producing a key metabolite needed for muscle protein synthesis. Turns out microbes love them gains too. Then we have the all-important nature. Why is it important? Because that's where the wild things live. That is where the majority of microbes live. So the more nature you consume, earth you touch, and dirty you get, the more micro-diverse you will likely become. And speaking of getting dirty, it's important to assess and mitigate the harsh chemicals, cleaning supplies, fragrances, and body care items which are so prevalent in our everyday life. Things such as hand sanitizers, mouthwash, and everyday body care items can disrupt your skin, gut, and oral microbiomes in serious ways. Also, understanding the consequences of unnecessary antibiotics, especially the broad spectrum ones, is super important as well. These are specifically designed to wipe out a broad spectrum of bacteria. And as we know, we need bacteria in and on our body to be at our biological best. So ask the question when discussing treatment options with your doctor. Antibiotics can be super helpful and even life-saving in certain scenarios. But just like anything else, they can also impact one's health in the wrong direction. Context matters, so understand yours. With all of this, it is important to reiterate that microbe cultivation is a lifelong activity. One day or 1 week is never gonna make or break you when it comes to altering your health and longevity via microbe manipulation. But your consistent routines, rituals, and habits likely will. The same routines, rituals, and habits which modulate not only your short-term here and now mood, feel, and cognition, but also your odds, likelihood, and probability of longevity. Best part is, the same healthy habits deliver benefits all across the board. Talk about a hole-in-one.
Talk about a hole-in-one.
Okay, I just wanted a reason to put that Happy Gilmore clip there. I'll see you later.